Hello and welcome to the special week one edition of SuperCoach Edge. We hope you enjoyed that intro mashup with each of the week episode titles to be a play on the title of a Bond film. My name is Jackman, Damon Jackman, and I am joined by Liam Evans. Now, I don't know about you, Liam, but I currently have no time to buy.
Well, my team feels like it's got no time to die.
Very good.
But it's good. It's been a good week. I'm upbeat. I'll leave it. We'll find out a bit more a bit later.
Yes.
But
yeah,
the buys.
There's a reason you're up about. They're upon us.
Are coming.
Yes, yeah. No doubt the coming bye week, Liam, it's going to leave you probably to a lesser extent because you're not worrying too much about the buys, unlike the rest of us. But it's going to leave the rest of us shaken, not stirred. But first, let's have a look back. Sorry, I'm gonna leave all these Bond references out and poor puns. Let's have a look back at how we fared on the weekend in the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I'm kicking it off this week, Liam, which does mean that you are victorious. Cat's out of the bag, if you already didn't know. So congratulations, Liam. We'll get into that a little bit shortly. Nice. In terms of my score, despite the loss, I am absolutely not ecstatic, but I'm pretty happy. I scored 2,429, which is an amazing score. And it is quite amazing that you can punch out a score like that when a majority of your primos decide to, not take their RDOs in the same week. Absolute imbecile. So finally they got together collectively and said, all right, you take next week off, I'll take this week. And it worked out. So all good, hunky-dory. Overall ranking, I am now ranked 13,743rd overall, which kickstarted my climb once again up the ranks, albeit only slightly with a move of 346 spots. But you know what? I'm going to take it. Even if it was a move up the ranks of one, it's a move in the right direction. So absolutely loving it. In terms of the trades, I did continue my consistent inclusion of primos with, I've had a grand total of 7 coming into my side across the past 6 weeks, which is why I've been becoming increasingly angry at my team because you'd think the trajectory should be going up, but it's been more like dipping and then slowly going down, but I'm on the way back up again. So this week it came in the form of Luke Parker as that primo who came into my side with Nick Martin making way for him and SDK, otherwise known as Sam DeConning, funding the trade via a downgrade to where?
Yeah, I guess.
In the defense. In defense. Where? He's in defense, then. In the good, I'm going to break the rules here and raise a glass to all of my main primos for finally, here's my glass, which is my Pepsi Max. I'm going to raise my can to all of those main primos for finally standing up and scoring well in the same week, but particularly Neil, Sicily, Dunkley, and Sinclair. So
very nice.
There you go. This is to you. Clink. In terms of the bad, McRae takes the honours here. I mean, his form over the recent weeks has been waning, and to only score 102 against a hapless Eagles outfit just isn't good enough. His average over the first 5 weeks of the season was 135, and after his next 6, that dropped to 120.5. So for someone usually so reliable for a captaincy score if your early VC fails, he is someone we now have to almost second guess ourselves on. So McRae, pull up your socks, mate. Like you are falling behind in terms of the primo stakes. It's almost like you're on an RDO every single week. And if you keep up this behavior, mate, you're going to be out of my team. You won't be, but I'm just got to put a rocket up him somehow. In terms of the ugly, surprise, surprise. It's a little bit of a surprise. Not so much for me, myself. I'm putting myself in the ugly bin. And not just because of this.
Wow.
It's because of my performance. So the reason being is I had the VC on Neil and we had a quick discussion prior to the Brisbane game kicking off. And I said, I've got my VC on Neil. And I was like, oh, yep, no worries. I don't know who you had your VC on. I think you
had on Oliver.
And
I did have on Oliver. I didn't
about
change my VC, yeah.
I was very fleeting about the VC to an extent that I didn't think about the potential two-prong tag that the Giants could use on Neil in the form of Ashton DeBoer. So thought too much about it, switched it from him, literally like seconds out from the game. It was like 20 seconds or something. And I'm like, you know what? gut feel, which was the wrong gut feel. I don't know what I ate to make me feel like that, but it was terrible move. So, of course, he went on to score the highest score of the round, and the man I switched it to in Oliver scored 113. To make matters worse is I then opted to put it on that man I just spoke of in the bad category. So technically he's in the ugly with me in McRae. So I thought he was reliable enough to bust out a score higher than 113, especially against the Eagles. Didn't do it. So join me in the ugly bin, McRae. Just not good enough, mate. Not good enough. But as I say, I'm wedding crashes.
What an idiot! Oh, what a loser!
What an idiot! Anyway, over to you, Liam.
Thanks. I know that feeling, Damon. I took the C off Dunks and put it on to McRae with just a few minutes before the game as well. It was on the basis that I'm playing for leagues now. Both my oppositions had the C on McRae. So I was like, you know what? Got to take the less risky road. I was projected to win both of those leagues. I think I wasn't ahead at that stage, but you know, when you look at the matchups, you can kind of get a sense, even though the projections might be off. But I decided to play it a bit safe, and it worked out in one, but not the other. There was more to that game. I only lost it by 10. So if I had Dunks as the C, if I kept even Oliver as the C, anyway, doesn't matter. Got up with the win this week, so I guess that'll have to do. Anyway, so my score was 2,454 with an overall ranking of, I went up 3,052 spots to 26,004th overall.
Nice.
It's a slow climb, slow climb. Onto my trades. Out was actually quite sad. I really wanted to keep Nick Martin for as long as I could, and I probably could have. But anyway, he helped me fund a double upgrade. I also moved on SDK, another one that I actually probably wanted to hold a little bit longer. And Nick Dacos Nick Dacos, sorry. And then on the ins, I had Lukey Parker, Jack Sinclair, and whatever we want to call him.
When, where, how?
Yeah, his family sitting on my bench. Just because of Bevo and his deciding to, screw us over by dropping what's his name, Cleary to the sub. But anyway, on the good, I have Jack Sinclair came straight into my side with a score of 140, which is exactly what I needed. In the bad, I've actually got Jaden Short, a score of 85. On the whole, seems decent enough, but he did struggle in the second half. So hopefully it's just an off game and he's back to his more reliable self soon. And in the ugly, I've got, and it's probably harsh, I feel a bit bad actually, but it's purely, I was actually going to go the same way. I wanted to give myself the ugly for the Dunks move, but Maurice Rioli, harsh, but it was lower score on field by a long way, and it'll be nice not to have to rely on him with the likes of Rioli and Curtis as well, with Hobbs and McComb getting that forward status with the new DPP changes. So it'd be nice to just not rely on Rioli.
I know. I feel you there, especially with Curtis. And it's one of those things where I thought on the weekend, in a good position, I had Baldwin as my potential, looper, screener, non-playing on the bench, screen Rioli score. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, well, Curtis might score another extra 20, 30 points. No, he's got an extra 2 points. Thanks. Thanks, man.
Oh, do you want to intro it? Let's have a quick look-see at our head-to-head, Damon. Would you like to run through it?
Yes, I'll do the honours. I'm happy to do so, Liam. It is, I'm on 8 wins, 3 losses. You are, of course, on 3 wins and 8 losses. So point differential as well is 303. So, after pulling away in recent weeks, you have nabbed 1 back on me. And after your, I'm going to say poor luck of late, Liam, you've been really hard done by. You had to gobble up that donut. You got COVID, which may be linked. Who knows? I am happy to see you at least get on the board and peg 1 back on me. So
thank you.
Yeah, let's hopefully it doesn't continue though, because there's still a margin of 5 wins. But as I said, I've also been saying that point differential you could chip away at, and you could come out of the bias. Who knows? Once we actually start, getting a bit of a full team of primos, provided they don't all take the RDO all at once, you could catch up and beat me. So
true. Hopefully. That's what I hope for. But the buys are probably going to help you out, considering I'm just not going to care about them.
That is true. I didn't think of that. Well, let's just pretend, Liam. Let's just pretend.
We'll just take the buys off.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in one of my leagues, one of the cash leagues that I'm organising, Liam, but the buys don't apply to the head-to-head because
it's very...
the consensus was that the buys are a piece of shit and they really stuff you up. So, yeah. But anyway.
I think, you can have that, you play, as your team, is strong across all three buys, and then you come up against someone who's just focused on one buy, or, you have that happen twice and you've all of a sudden lost 2 games.
Yep.
Which you realistically probably should have won. So I think that's a fair way of playing it. But let's move on. Let's get through the talking points that come out of this weekend and even the weeks that are coming up. And let's look at them a little closer in the week that was. In the week that was, we keep you up to date on the key talking points of the round, and we'll keep it relatively short as we'll touch on most of these points in the next segments. But the key things from here are, 1, the buys are here and just ominously just lurking behind the curtain. And 2, we've got DPP changes, which is a lot more exciting.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, I was just looking to see if the buys were behind me, Liam. I was, I know they're lurking around. Could be anywhere. Looking through the window. I
feel like it's like Jaws, you're just swimming away happily and then...
Yeah, you're just like, Primo on my side. Turn it. Oh, there's another Primo. Turn it. And then you do the buy, what do you call it on SuperCoach? SuperCoach goal where you can check out the buy detector. Whatever it is.
Yep, and your whole team's faded out.
You're like, oh my God, here comes the buy. Chomped.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
Yes. So those dreaded buys, they are very, very scary. But we'll chat through that in a segment very, very soon. But on the exciting front, Liam, we've got our next round of DPP changes in the bank.
Oh,
Ripper.
love it.
Because on Wednesday, a lot of people don't know this, but nice little present. It's kind of like Christmas. On Wednesday, it's not Christmas, is the mid-season draft. So we'll have a slew of options for downgrade options on our hands. So keep an eye on our socials for any players of note coming out of the draft that we'll, of course, tweet about, put out across our socials, and drum up a bit of an insight into to see if they're worthy of being drafted in your team.
That's right. So let's move on. Let's jump straight in and just chat about the DPP changes.
Yes. Thank you, David Bowie. At last, we have been delivered gifts by the gods, the SuperCoach gods, in the form of 23 new DPP players. And the most notable and SuperCoach relevant include, for the mid-forwards, we have Bont, Basilenka, Heaney, Rosie, Hobbs, and McComb. In the mids, we have, mid-defense, we have Short. He was on the cusp, as you would have heard in our recent episode. So he got a fair bit of mid-time to really nudge him over that mark. Who else we got in the ruck forward? There's only one.
Yeah, ruck forward. There's only one. Got Darcy Cameron. I think that would come as no surprise. Yeah. And for the 15 other players, you can find them on the Herald Sun website or on Honeyball. They're less SuperCoach relevant, but they've got DPP status nonetheless. So if you want to check them out there. But with these changes in mind, let's jump straight into how best to take advantage of these by discussing all things trades with The Price is Right.
The price is wrong, bitch.
In The Price is Right, we run through the top buy, sell, hold, and wait options for this round of SuperCoach. We'll chat about the pros, the cons, and any notable players that you might need to consider with the buys coming up. But first off, before we delve into the best trade targets, let's rehash what presents us on the buy front. Just, that cloud that's just sitting there.
Looming over us.
It's been, sunshine and rainbows, and then all of a sudden that cloud's out the back. It's getting closer.
I don't have time to buy, Liam. I was just going my merry way, just upgrading, and I just hate it. So round 12, it does obviously mark the first of the 3 buy rounds where your best performing 18 players will be counted towards your weekly score. For each of the 3 weeks, we get access to use an extra trade, which is deducted from our total amount remaining. So unfortunately, I wish it wasn't the case. You don't get any extra trades. You just get access to use another one from the batch of those that you have remaining. On the first bye, we have, as we mentioned last week, Carlton, Essendon, Giants, Port, Richmond, and St Kilda, which we'll go through again just for those people who are tuning in for this episode and missed last week's. Don't know why you would. You got to tune in every week. But the 5 most notable players from each, according to ownership, include for Carlton, Cripps, Walsh, Doherty, Hewitt, Carroll. Probably Carroll to a lesser extent now. Essendon, we have Merritt, Parrish, Martin, Ridley, and Hobbs. The Giants, we have Bruce, again, probably a lesser factor now. But Canelio, Kelly, Green, Taranto. Port, we have Hayes, Butters, Houston, Boak, Wines. Richmond, we have Short, Rioli Jr., Gibcus, Dusty, and Vloston. Sorry, Rioli. And St Kilda, we have Gresham, Sinclair, Crouch, Marshall, and Wanganeen Millerer.
Yeah, so obviously something to keep in mind when trading in players to cover this week are the teams that have the bye over the coming next 2 bye weeks. So make sure any trade-ins don't leave you in more of a compromising position than you would have been otherwise. So knowing that we have access to 3 trades, if you're left with any less than 15 players available heading into next week, you're at risk of not being able to field the full 18. So just, keep that in mind. I think this week I'm going to field 16 or 17. So I'm definitely going to have a donut, but I'm kind of just resigned to that. As we said, the 2 main leagues don't have head-to-heads during the buys, so it's not really a concern for me. I'll just trade as I need to grab the players that are on the bubble or who might, jump up in price too much so that I can't grab them after the buys. But let's jump in. Let's jump straight into the sell options, Damon.
Yes, the first one, which just having a quick look at SuperCoach, we have is the most traded actually, 11% so far as we record this on Monday evening, and it is Sam Hayes. He's priced at 308.2k, obviously a ruck, averaging a 72.6 with a break even of 49, and of course, like we mentioned there, the buy is this week for him. So there's 2 schools of thought with Hayes. One is to hold him over his bye this week and have him as handy cover for the next 2 games in round 13 and 14, where other people would be, I guess, trying to find another player that is playing in those weeks, I guess. And the other is to trade him now as an almost maxed out cash cow. So Liam, what are your thoughts on this? I personally want to get rid of him. I mean, his break even is creeping very, very close to his average now. Hasn't been scoring as well as what he did early on when he first started. And I actually need a bit of cash to fund an upgrade to whether it be a Baslenka or an English, one of those guys. Yep. So I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I'm probably going to move him on. He's round 12 by sort of is a bit awkward. I'm going to move him on just because, I mean, it's hard. I don't want to get, basically my advice to anyone is to just, comes down to what you need for your team. If you've got ample cover in the round 13 and 14 buys and need someone this week, trading him out makes sense. But if you've got lots of options this week, then maybe he's a bit more handy for the next 2 buys. It's very team dependent. If you need the cash, it makes sense to trade him. I'm probably going to trade him just for the cash. But, and it's hard for me to say because I'm obviously not worried about the buys as much as I probably would be most years. So I'm 50-50 on it. But yeah, I think it's very team dependent.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Sit on the fence.
Yeah. No, it's true though. Like it comes down to how many players you have. If you have ample players playing already this week on his bye, there probably is reason to keep him because he is going to help you out as that extra player across the next 2 bye rounds, considering that he's playing across both. So there is that school of thought, and it totally makes sense. And if you think he's going to be able to hold his price point at the very least, or if you conversely think that he can perhaps kickstart his cash gen again, then why not? But yeah, I'm very much in the position at the moment where I need to trade out, and I can afford to do it because I have enough players at the moment. I think I've got about 17 heading into next week from memory. Yeah. So, it's not as if, like I said earlier, you've got sub 15 players and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. And also just on the mid-season draft front as well, something to think of for trading him down. Keep note as well, because at the moment I'm looking at trading him down potentially to a non-playing player, as we traditionally do. And I think the cheapest option in the rucks that have DPP, apart from Akui, I can't pronounce his name, apologies, who you have, Liam, who is a defensive ruck at 102. There aren't any others. That the cheapest, I think, is 124. McGuinness might be, or Comben. So one of those two guys from North Melbourne. So we might get access to, is a little bit of a scoop, access to 102K ruckman forward through the mid-season draft. So hold fire on doing that, and hopefully they'll be imported into SuperCoach in the playing list by the weekend.
Yep. No, I agree entirely there. On to the next cab off the rank. It's another ruckman, Braden Pruce, 457.1K ruck eligible, with an average of 110 with a break even of 47 and a bye this round. And another that many have opted to trade out. He obviously missed round 10 due to illness. Strangely enough, he was also left out of the senior side by new coach Spike McVeigh, and instead was made to play for the seconds, despite being declared healthy. Given this, there's a bit of an element of doubt, I think, over his job security in the team. I think, Damon, we actually spoke about it earlier when he was looking at being traded in. And the most telling was comments made by GW's assistant, Amon Buchanan, who prior to team selection said, ominously, he trained today, will go into match committee this afternoon to figure out the pieces. Clearly, Prusy provides a really good contest in the air. Here's one we'll discuss.
Not a good endorsement, is it?
No, it's a bit concerning. And obviously Flynn's obviously his main competitor. Looking at his VFL stats, I don't know if he played the full game, but didn't look too dominant a performance. I guess I can see why you'd want to trade him out, especially with missing. We'll chat about some trade-in options that sort of fit as to why you might want to move Pruce on. But I guess equally, you could also go against the grain and hold him and see if he does return to the team after his bye, especially if you have someone like English or Darcy, English up forward, or even a Darcy who you can swap in this week, trade him in, or even if you've, got a Rowan Marshall or something, or a Cameron, all those options would suffice. I mean, it's best 18, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. I think now's a good time to get rid of him. We'll delve into, like you said, those buy options very shortly, but English is one that really sticks out, as does Darcy. That is Sean Darcy, the big ogre from Freo. Sorry, that's a bit harsh. Not so much on his looks, but he just lumps around. He's not the most athletic looking bloke. But both of those guys present as really solid options, and look at this stage as if they're vying for like the R1, R2, or R3 option heading forth. So we'll delve into that very, very shortly. But let's move on to another sell candidate, and it is Josh Gipkus, who is priced at 325.9K as a defender, averaging a 64.1 with a break-even of 77. And yes, of course, another guy who has his bye this weekend. So pretty plain and simple, I think, for him. He's maxed out as a rookie, and his price has started to drop. So with the bye this weekend, it's a simple option to sell, I think. He's major price, major money. Trade him in and use that dosh to upgrade to a primo.
Yep, I agree entirely there, Damon. And onto another option in the exact same boat. It's Nick Martin, 368.7K, forward mid, averaging 83.4 with a break-even of 76 and a bye this round. He came back into some decent form on the weekend with a solid score in the 90s, while he looks like he could be a good option to hold for an F7, and I really wish I could have. But his bye is this round. It's probably worth offloading him if you still have him.
Spot on. I did very much the same thing in getting rid of him. And I wish I could have kept him, because it was just really that past couple of weeks where he just had a bit of a dip, but obviously back on top again, and hopefully he can continue his good form. Moving on to hold options, and the first one is Paddy McCartan. And these ones obviously aren't set in stone. So if it works for your team, because that's the nature of buys, is that every team's going to be different in terms of the number of players they have available across the buys. So these aren't necessarily 100% hold. These are guys that you could hold based on a number of factors. So first guy is Paddy McCartan. He is a forward defender, priced at 356.3K, averaging a 70.7 with a break-even of 50. And he does have his bye round 13. And that is part of the reason why you could hold. So main thing with Paddy is that he's been uber consistent, maintaining his 70 average from virtually the start of the year to now. And most impressive of that is that his average contains his concussion-affected 44, with 2 of his 4 scores on return being a 94 and an 85. So he does really show that he's got that ceiling as the intercept defender. Really strong part of his game. He does have the bye next week, so you could potentially hold him this week. And, at minimum, he should hold his price and potentially go up even more before you trade him in next week on his bye. So something to think about. I am holding him. The next guy who we're going to talk about, I've already sold. Could have swapped it out. Could have been a sliding doors moment between both of these guys. Very, very similar. And that next guy, Liam, is.
Yep, it's Sam DeConning, the round 11 Rising Star nomination. He's forward defensive eligible. They're basically the same. 348.5K, averaging 65.2 with a break even of 46 and a buy in round 13 too. He has gone from strength to strength, very much like McCartan, having lifted his 49.5 average from his first 5 games of the year to 65.2 across the next 6 games. He's definitely one to hold, one that you can hold, I guess, given he is playing in the first bye week with a very achievable break even, and then upgrade him come next week when Geelong has the bye. So yeah, both those guys are ones that I'd hold if you still have them, and you still can hold them just while they're playing options for the buys. But let's move on, Damon. Let's move on to the buy options.
Yes, the juicy part of this segment. Always love it. And first up, we have that ogre I spoke of earlier. Again, apologies, nothing to do with your ears or the way you look, Sean Darcy. But Sean Darcy is a ruckman, of course, priced at 581.6, averaging 107.8 with a break-even of 68. And his buy, which also helps him as a bit of a buy factor, his buy is in round 14. Almost got myself tongue-tied. There's too many buys. Darcy looks to have bottomed out after dropping in price off the back of his score of 51 in round 9, and will surely increase from here on with a break-even of 68. So outside of his 51, he scores either side of round 9, where he got that read, 178, 134, and 141. So whilst he presents as a tasty proposition, his durability does, however, remain a key concern, having had a delayed start to the year, and he has sustained niggles in-game across a couple so far this year. So that's the main knock on his game, and one thing that always scares me. And if I was to pick him up, that would be in the back of my mind. So if you are trading him in, I would want to make sure you have the ability to swing, say, an English or a Darcy Cameron forward via an R3 DPP swing in case an injury were to occur, or at least have, if it was to occur later in the year, at least have a trade up your sleeve if you don't have access to a DPP swing. Yeah, he's very scary, but very, very tasty proposition at that price, especially.
Yeah, that is very much the case. I agree with you entirely there. Next up, we've got Tom Stewart, defensive eligible, 618.6K, massive, averaging 120.6 with a break even of 69 and a buy in round 13. He's absolutely killing it. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. And he has a 3-round average of 136.3 and a 5-round average of 134 as a defender. But just keep in mind that these are inflated by his massive scores of 174 and 187. So 174 and 187 are in his 5-round average, and the 174 is in his 3-round average. So as of Tuesday, he's been traded in by 3.8% of sides at an eye-watering price of 618.6K with a break-even of just 69. So he's going to go up in price. There's no doubt about it. But I just want to throw a couple of stats in that maybe we need to consider. His average at GMHBA this season is 161. That's with 3 of his 4 highest scores, this year coming at Cardinia Park. On the other hand, away from GMHBA, he is averaging 103, which is solid, no doubt. No doubt about that. But just keep in mind, he plays his next 3 games away from GMHBA Stadium. Doesn't necessarily mean he's a bad pick at this stage. It's just, temper those expectations if you bring him right now. I don't think he is going to necessarily score as highly just based off those averages.
Absolutely. I totally agree with everything you've said there, and I love those stats. It's something to factor in. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, he must love the ground size of Cardinia Park. Plays into his favour.
Well, it must obviously play into his favour.
Moving on to another buy candidate, and it may surprise some people because he has gone up in price already, and it is Joel Jeffrey of the Suns, selectable as a forward, priced at 188.9k, averaging a 71 with a break-even of -77. So he does have the buy, round 13, but the main thing for him that's a positive is that it looks like he could maintain his spot in the Suns side off the back of his last two performances especially, which garnered scores of 95 and 93. And most notably, whilst his first big score came off the back of 5 goals, his 93 on the weekend came off the back of 1 goal, 7 score involvements, and 4 1%ers, which of course help boost his score. But it does show that he can score without having to rely on goals. So he's very much a pressure forward. Whilst he already has made a 61.5k with a break-even of -77, SuperCoach Gold forecasts him making another 79k if he can score a minimum of 51 for each of the next 2 games he plays. So just remember, he does, of course, have that bye next week. So if he doesn't fit into your bye structure or it compromises your team in any way, maybe think twice about getting him in. Or if you don't care about buys like yourself, Liam, who gives a shit, just bring him in. But yeah, we're going to chat to Empa as a very, very special surprise guest about him. And we're going to actually also chat to him about 3 other guys that we'll be delving into very, very shortly here. And you know what? Let's just do it right now. The first guy, Liam, is...
Yeah, it's Timmy English. Ruck forward, 597.7k, averaging 128 with a break-even of 55 and a buy in round 13. Now, for those owners that did hold Tim English for all those weeks, you were certainly rewarded for holding the faith.
Yeah.
Looks certain as a top 6 forward and has that handy DPP status that means he's got plenty of upside in your team, especially if you've got, the likes of Darcy sitting in your R2 or R1 spot. Just be nice. But he's averaging 128 for the season with a low score of just 96. If you haven't got him, it's time to jump on. It's time.
Yep. I think it is time. It is time. The time is nigh. Yeah, geez, what a floor. Floor of 96. Were you ringing the bell then?
Yep, I was ringing the bell.
For those people listening on the podcast, you're like, what the hell? What are you talking about? That's why you should be tuning in to the podcast on YouTube, because you miss these little gags that only I can pick up on and the other people that tune in. So join in and check out that, because you have visual gags that you miss out on. Very much so. We'll delve into him. I won't... We'll just touch on the surface there, as we will with these next 2 guys. And one of these next 2 is Bailey Smith. He is now a midfielder forward, priced at 552.8k, averaging 112.2 with a break-even of 65, and, goes without saying, as a Bulldog, by round 13. So he did miss round 11 after not getting up from illness, so make sure he's named, obviously, before trading him in. But with his new DPP status, he's, I think, hands down a lock for a forward role in everyone's teams, and coming in almost 40k cheaper than the next bloke on the list with a similar output in terms of scoring. I don't think you can go wrong.
I agree. And that next bloke on the list is Marcus Bontempelli. And sorry, just before we jump into it, Bailey Smith has an average of 112.2 for almost 40k cheap, almost 40k more. You're going to get Marcus Bontempelli with an average of 111. Yeah. So Smith is averaging higher. But anyway, we'll jump in. Marcus Bontempelli, mid-forward eligible, finally, 589.4k, averaging 111 with a break-even of 122 and a buy in round 13. And now, can we just say, finally, the DPP change that I think we've all seen coming and we've all been waiting for, and we finally got it. Bont gets his forward and mid status. So exciting. You can probably afford, that being said, you can probably afford to wait until after his bye to pick him up, especially if you need to grab one of his teammates that we mentioned earlier and get them into your side. I personally probably have him in 3rd spot in order of importance at this stage, with English and Baz 1st and 2nd respectively, just based off their break-evens. With his break-even below his average, his break-even above his average, I think it's fair to say you've got grounds to hold, especially with his bye coming up next round.
You've got to find ways. You've got to be nifty, don't you, to fit in all these dogs. Get these dogs happening. But it's that time, Liam. It is time for our special guest. And the special guest is our number one ticket holder of the show. And love having him on. And he's going to be on here chatting about all these guys here. And I've got a couple of questions for him because I've been racking my brain trying to work out which of these guys to bring in first. So that's going to be one of the questions. But let's bring him in now, Liam. It is none other than Empire. Alrighty, Liam. So joining us now is our number one ticket holder, the driver of the Ben Keys bandwagon, and stats guru, Empire. Thanks for joining us, mate.
Thank you for having me back on the show. Very, very happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Emperor. Thanks for joining us. And how are you going so far this season?
I started off pretty well. Shot out like a rocket. All thanks to my man, like you mentioned, Ben Keys. Pretty happy with starting him. I've made a couple of good moves. Probably my best one so far has been trading out Brodie Grundy the week he got injured for Braden Pruce at 200K. And Matt Rowell this week for Joel Jeffrey, which has really helped my team get into a really strong spot heading into the buys. But overall, I'm sitting currently just outside the top 15K. So I'm not too high up, but overall isn't really my main focus. My main focus is leagues.
Yeah, it sounds like you're in a very similar position to Leon and myself. And we're just trying to keep positive because we know that we've kind of been slow and steady, wins the race type scenario, whereas a lot of people have just been burning through trades and, using their boosts from the get-go. So, hopefully all of us as a collective, us three, can come out of the buys absolutely firing. But we've got you on this episode to help guide us with your analytical prowess, I guess you could say, and just your all-round opinion on all things SuperCoach. But prior to getting you on in the segment we just discussed, we had a brief chat about obviously DPP changes, obviously the buys as well coming up this week, but in particular the three dogs, which are Baz, Bont, and English. They are the talk of the town at the moment. But there's a couple of questions in terms of going into, I guess, the first bye week. I was very much set on jumping on Baz, and it was almost a silver line in the fact that he had the weekend off through illness because he kept his price. His break even was, I think, a 66 or 65 or thereabouts, and he stayed, obviously the same price. But now I've kind of shifted, and chatting to Liam, he kind of opened my eyes a bit in a sense, but I probably would have found it out because I do need an extra. I've currently got 17 players, and I do need to trade in someone that's playing this weekend in order to get the 18. But Liam mentioned English as an option, and I think he's the most expensive of the lot. I don't know if he's more expensive than Bont, potentially he is. But just in terms of these guys, first question, and it's probably one that a lot of the our viewers and listeners have. First off, can you realistically run with all three of these guys? I mean, 4 including Dunks, or even 5 if you are someone that has a Trelaw. Is it possible to fit all these guys in? And are there any drawbacks to having, 4 or 5 guys from the one team?
Look, I think that you can. You could also throw Liberatore in that mix as well, because he's also flying as well. So you could potentially have 6 dogs up in your forward line. Probably not a great idea for next week, but given the way that they're all scoring, it's you might as well get them. I think Dunks, English, Bont, and one of the other ones, they're the top 4 highest averaging forwards. So absolutely you can. The only real way it's going to affect you is in the bye when they actually, all of them don't play. But absolutely you can play all of them.
I guess the concern from my side is just, and I think Dave and we spoke about this off air, is if the dogs have a down week, does it affect all of them and sort of a bigger chunk of your side as well, just by them having a down week, if it affects multiple of them. I guess having all of them, that's my only concern. But I agree with you. I mean, at the end of the day, they've been playing in the same team. They're all averaging quite high. They're all averaging together very high. So I can see how they could all work together.
Yeah. I think the main thing is as well, isn't it? You're just planning out, the big thing is planning across the bye period itself. But all these guys obviously have the round 13 bye. But if you've already got 2, for example, and you want to bring in 1 at the moment, and if you can afford to do it, and you're still going to be able to field 18 come next week when the Bulldogs have the bye, you can still realistically bring in another 1 or another 2 off the back of that, depending on if that floats your boat. If you want to get another 2 in, depending on who you've already got and who you haven't. But the other question for you, Amp, is I guess in your analytic wizardry opinion, who is the best of these options, the doggies, to target as the first trade-in option? So we'll limit it just in terms of, we'll assume everyone's got dunks, but out of Baz, Bont, and English as the 3 hottest prospects, which of those 3 would you target first?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned target first, because I actually bought Bontempelli in last week, the week just gone, because I reckon that he is probably the best one to have. But the way that English has just scored on the weekend, and the fact that the only other real ruck option that most people are going for at the moment is either Witts or Darcy, I reckon English just pips him at the moment, especially with both Bruce and Hayes not playing this week. I would be bringing in English first, but I don't really think you could go wrong bringing in either Bont or English. Smith, on the other hand, he's been good, obviously. Like, he's still scoring quite well, but his consistency has been a bit of an issue. So it really depends on whether or not leagues or overall is going to be your main focus. Because if leagues are your main focus, then Bailey Smith could possibly cost you a game.
I don't know if you've run any numbers, but like quartiles, is anything that you've looked at there, or is anything without running numbers that sticks out in terms of knowing the ceiling and the floor of all these players?
I haven't really had too much time to run most of the statistical stuff that I sort of became known for over the last couple of years, just because I haven't had as much time these days. But a couple of things that I did note while having a look through all of these guys' scores, half of English's scores are actually higher than Bontempelli's highest score. And English has only played 6 games for the year. So he's got a far higher ceiling, and even his floor is a lot higher than Bontempelli's too. I think Bont's had an 88 and a 96, and English has had like somewhere in the two in the 90s. So I'd say, just in terms of like where they are scoring wise, English still has Bontempelli beat. But yeah, Bailey Smith has had like 4 scores under 80, but his highest scores have been all fairly high scoring.
Yeah, true. Very good. And now I guess onto the inspired move you made, Joel Jeffrey, obviously for Matty Rowell, as you mentioned. Just wanted to chat about him a little bit. Do you reckon he's still a decent trading option as a cash cow? We're all crying out for now.
Absolutely, he is. The way that most of the media have actually talked about him during the week leads me to believe that he's definitely going to be in the team for quite a few weeks to come. He's got the lowest break even of anyone in the game at the moment. So he's still going to easily make, 100, 120K. So whilst you won't gain as much money trading him out that you could have when he was 127K, you're still going to make, 100K over the next couple of weeks. And depending on how long he's actually in the team for, he'll make you a decent amount of money.
Yeah. So you're thinking probably about another 100K for anyone that trades him in this week?
He'll probably make about, realistically, somewhere in the 60 to 70K range. I think SuperCoach Gold has him at 57K for a score of 50, which would probably put him at about 70K for a score of 90 again. So he's still going to rise quite a significant amount this week.
Decent. Very good. That's what I need. Another cash cow.
Don't we all?
Yeah, exactly. I'm very much the same as well. Like in F6, unfortunately, I've been having to run either, what's his name? Curtis. It's a bane of my SuperCoach existence for 2022. Having to run Curtis at F6 or Rioli. And the fact that I'm still able to like screen both of their scores by having Baldwin as the non-playing player off the bench hasn't helped me in the slightest, because the weekend, for example, Rioli scored 36 and he was on the bench. And I was like, oh, okay, I got Curtis. What are the chances he's actually going to beat him? To his credit, he did, but only by 2 points. He scored a 38. So, like, I'm just so thankful now with the DPP changes that I can now swing. You know, when the buys aren't too much of a factor, I can swing Hobbs forward, play him, and play even McComb at the moment as well. Because that's been putting a bit of a limit on my ceiling overall. But I'm looking to potentially bring in Jeffrey off the back of, you know, what you've just endorsed there. He's still going to make a bit of cash. Obviously got a better scoring potential than Curtis and Rioli. I mean, Rioli hasn't been too bad, but he's been very up and down.
Up and down.
Yeah. So, something to think about there. But Amber, is there anything you wanted to chat about or endorse apart from your love for Ben Keys?
I mean, we could dedicate the entire segment to me just talking about him. I love him so much.
I don't think I'm. Is it true? Yeah, exactly. I don't think I'd have, you know, I'd have imagined that I'd meet anyone with a love for a player to rival that of mine for Sammy Walsh. But I think you come pretty close.
Well, it's interesting. Like the actual reason I picked him, and this actually, I was going to talk about this a little bit as well. Those that know me probably know that I picked Cam Guthrie as well as a super pod last year, and he turned out to be one of the picks of the year as well. And there may be a little bit of a secret formula to picking these guys that I may have inadvertently stumbled across, because it's not just Keys and it's not just Guthrie. There's a couple of other players that sort of fit the boat as well. One of them going around this year and he's scoring really, really well, and that's George Hewitt. And the other two are Jack Steele and Took Miller.
The common theme, they're all
taggers, former taggers exactly. That are now turned inside mids. Very interesting thing to keep an eye on over the next few weeks for anyone looking ahead to 2023, which is probably quite a few people at the moment, but yeah.
Oh, it's good. It's a nice little nugget of secrecy there. One of your secret 11 herbs and spices. Anyway, Emp, you've been generous with your time, mate. So thanks so much for jumping on and helping, I guess, answer some of those conundrums that I myself had anyway in terms of Jeffrey and those doggies as to who to target first. Because it's left scratching my head. When lockout opened and I saw the new price points and who got DPP and who didn't. So thank you so much for joining us, and no doubt we'll catch you very, very soon.
No worries, you will. And just before you do boot me out of the call, going to be sending you guys another $100 donation just for the work you do. You've definitely earned it. So
thank you.
Oh, thanks. No, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, don't do that.
That wasn't part of the reason we got you on.
Doing that. No, definitely not now. But no, I will be sending you guys another $100 just because, you guys are great.
Oh, thanks, mate. No, I really appreciate the support. And I guess we'll probably send that money back your way anyway when you take out our SuperCoach Edge private league. So you've probably done it. You've done it strategically.
I'm doing pretty well in there. Yes, absolutely.
Very nice. Well, thank you so much again, mate. And we'll catch you very, very soon.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks, Emper. Thanks, Emper, for jumping on. It's always fun having a number one ticket holder on the podcast. It's always insightful as well. And let's move on to the next segment. And I can guess, I mean, I don't think he is every week, but do you reckon Emper's got a sneaky captain on Keys most weeks?
I think that's very, very true. Very true. But also should make mention as well, how generous of him. Like, for him to say he's going to dip into his pocket for a couple of humble, struggling super coaches who just do this for a bit of passion. It's nice of him to do so. So, but hopefully he gets repaid in spades with a bit of luck with his man Keys. But as you said, we all know he loves Keys as his captain option probably most weeks. But what about other players, Liam? Who would they be?
Yeah, let's chat about them in I'm the Captain now.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Yes, we've scrounged through the data and found the best options for your VC and C this weekend. And first up, we've got, I don't want to even talk about him, Josh Dunkley against Geelong, Friday 7:50. Maybe I'll trust him this week. He's got an average of 98 over his last four against the Cats with scores of 96, 88, 103 and 105. but he does have that 3-round average of 125.7. So it's a good option for Friday night.
Yeah, like it. I mean, he had a bit of not an out-of-the-box game on the weekend, but he probably scored.
Aligned.
Yeah, they did. He scored the way that McRae should have scored as well. So shame on you. Shame. And that man we'll speak about right now, Jack McRae. He's averaging 108.25 over his last 4 against the Cats with scores of 97, 96, 124 and 116. And Geelong, it's actually the side that he has the worst average against. So it's, stars aren't aligning. They're misaligning. No. So he's probably one to steer clear of, but we'll mention him nonetheless because he might just, since I put the rocket up here, he might try and turn it around.
I think it's also just worth bringing him up in the context of these stats so that people don't just automatically think, Jack McRae, he's always a good option for your VC. Yeah. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, as we saw on the weekend, he's not always now anymore. But that, Liam, also alongside the fact that his 3-round average is 107.7 and his 5-round average is 111.2. So, I mean, doesn't scream pick me as a captaincy option with his current form, paired with his historical form against the Cats. So, nonetheless, I mean, just think about him. Probably not so much as an option, but now you know as to why you shouldn't select him.
Yes. Tom Stewart is our next option in that same game. He's averaged 110.25 over his last 4 against the Doggies with scores of 120, 104, 114 and 103. And he has a 3-round average of 136.3 and a 5-round average of 134. But be mindful that only 2 of those scores were captaincy worthy, and that is the 125 plus rule, obviously. But Western Bulldogs also give away the 3rd most points to opposition general defenders. But he isn't playing at Cardinia Park. He is playing at, I think, Marvel Stadium. So it's all just too much for me. But another nice VC option for Friday. And thankfully, I don't have him on my side. But you know what? I don't have him on my side, so I don't have to consider all of those different stats that compete. So whether these should be a good VC option this round.
Just flip a coin after all those stats. Another guy to look at is Rory Laird. Plays the Weagles on Saturday at 1:45 p.m. and he's averaged 97.25 over his last 4 against the Eagles with scores of 125, 130, 87 and 92. And another sort of, I guess, tactical viewpoint is the fact that the Eagles give away the 3rd most points to opposition inside mids. So that may play into his hands. We saw with Dunkley on the weekend. Absolutely smashed it. So he could be one, despite his historical average, not looking like the best against the Eagles. He could be one that might have a nice little handy game and someone to factor in as a potential, I guess, VC option. Yep.
Next up, we've got the pink sweaty pig in Clayton Oliver against Sydney on Saturday at 7:25. He's averaged 114 over his last 4 against the Swans, which are scores of 137, 137, 117 and 84. And he has his 3rd worst average against the Swans. But I'd probably expect him to bounce back after what I want to say is a bit of a shock loss by the Ds on the weekend. So you probably expect them all to just, dig a little deeper this week and make sure they get back on the winners list.
Absolutely. And his teammate, Maxi Gawn, plays obviously in that same game, and he's averaged 123.5 over his last 4 against the Swans with scores of 112, 150, 113 and 119, and got back into a little bit of form on the weekend with a 118 against some tough opposition in Sean Darcy. So who knows, the wheel might be turning for Gawny, so keep him in mind.
Yes. Now, next up on Sunday at 2:10, we've got against Collingwood, we've got James Sicily, who has an average of 115.75 against the Pies in his last 4, with scores of 132, 141, 125 and 65. Now, the 65 does come all the way back since 2017, but he does have his 2nd best average against the Pies of any side. Ooh. Also comes in with a 3-round average of 136.7 and a 5-round average of 131.6. And 3 of those scores have been captaincy worthy, again with that 125 plus rule. I reckon he's not a bad option.
Jeez, I'm sorry. I'm feeling like a bit of, the Vince McMahon gif where he falls off his chair. As you're reading out line by line there, I was like, oh yeah. And then I'm getting hot under the collar. Jeez, he's, like I've mentioned previously, he's been my best trade-in, hands down, of the season so far. He's just gone from strength to strength. But the stars are aligning there. Each of those stats that you spoke about, his historical average, second best average against the Pies overall, and then his 3 and 5 round average. He is in stellar form. Intercept defender. He just racks up those easy points. Champion data just love him. They just get out their lipstick, as do I at the moment. I'm absolutely loving him. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just my brain's gone to mush. I just thinking about him. Let's move on. To Lockie Neal. Plays Freo on Sunday at 5:20 p.m. and he's averaged 125 over his last 2 against the Dockers with scores of 171 and 79. So a bit from each side of the spectrum. Has his second best average against his old side, but has only played them twice. So not that much of a sample size there. But comes on the back of a score of course, the 164 on the weekend that I missed. Idiot. But yeah. Anyway, he's looks like he's getting back into some really good form, and it's going to be a really, really tough contest, that one. Looking forward to both of these, both of those teams matching up. But Liam, honourable mentions.
Yes, we've got a few actually this round, and these are just, I guess, players that might not just players that don't necessarily have a good average or against these sides or the history, but we just wanted to raise. And the first one is Tim English, and he's the perfect VC option if you ask me. Is in an absolutely stellar form. And to add to that, Geelong also give away the second most points to opposition ruckman.
Ooh, jeez.
Juicy tidbit there.
Yeah, it's nice. I think there's all these players that were mentioned here, the teams that they're facing, there's sort of a bit of a tactical exploitation.
Yeah. So these, that's where the sort of the logic has come with these. Yeah. Next up, we've got Jordan Dawson. And West Coast give away the third most points to opposition wingers / attacking defenders.
I like it.
It's another sort of out of the box choice.
Yep. Yeah, not too bad.
Now, I want to say a big out of the box choice here, and that is Jakey Lloyd. Melbourne give away the most points to our general defenders and designated kick-in takers, kick-inners, people who take the kick-in, I guess, which Jake Lloyd is doing. Especially if Blakey's not back in. I think Blakey was also taking a lot of the kick-ins. So Jake Lloyd, one to consider if you have him. I'm just trying to find some big. I think over the buys, your VC and C options can really be important because with best 18, you want to sort of maximize your captaincy score as well. So I think sometimes going for someone a little bit left of field is good.
Just on Lloydie as well, on the man who loves chips, he, in absence of Blakey, took 90% of the kickouts. He had 9, Florent had 1, and of course Jakey played on in 8 of those 9. So who knows with that I guess opposition matchup, the exploitation would be really, really a big pot, I think, as a when do they play Sydney? They're Saturday, aren't they? So it could be potentially a VC if you want to sort of minimise the risk. Yeah,
definitely. Next up, we've got Callum Mills. And this one's a bit more speculative. Melbourne, obviously, as I mentioned, give away the most points to general defenders. And he did spend a lot of time in the defensive half against Richmond, I'm assuming with Blakey's absence. So just, I guess, watch for Blakey being named on the weekend. I don't know why he was out, but just keep that in mind. Callum Mills could be another sneaky VC option. And the last one, and this one's another probably, it's a little bit of a big, long bow to draw. It's Tom Mitchell. Now, Collingwood give away the most points to opposition inside mid, so it really depends on his role and whether he gets that majority of time in the engine room. But another one that you could potentially consider.
I was just going to say, going into when you're reading that out, I thought, because each one's kind of like getting less and less of, an option, like a solid option. And I thought that you're going to say Collingwood give away the most free kicks. So therefore, Tom Mitchell presents himself as an option.
Well, I mean, in saying that, Tom Mitchell also, I mean, it's hard to look at, but let's have a quick look at his average. It's his second highest average comes against the Pies as well.
Okay, there you go.
So, there's that sort of history there as well. But, it's hard to weigh it all up. I think let's jump into who we're selecting, Damon.
Yes, let's do that. And I'm going to be a little bit left field. I think for the first time in our history, might have done it once before, but at least for this season anyway, I am tempted to roll the dice on one of those honourable mentions that we just mentioned for the first time. So it comes... You got it. No, I don't have enough chips. It comes in the form of Timmy English, the Pommy.
Yes.
He's not really a Pommy, but we'll call him Pommy because he's English. If I opt to trade him in. So that I'm still sort of on the fence for. I'm strongly considering it. So more chance of it happening than not. So for the C, if he does fail, or if I don't go with him and whoever it is fails, I would probably put it on either Laird or Neil, I think, at this stage.
Yep. I like that. Timmy English is the perfect VC option, if you ask me. It's probably going to be my VC.
Yep.
If I bring him in, obviously. If I don't bring him in, who else would I go for? I am going to go with, I don't know, Josh Dunkley, just because he plays on Friday night.
Yep.
But I'm probably going to go with James Sicily for the captain, just for a bit of something different. Okay. I'm not too concerned over the buys. As I said, I'm just going to be trying to go for some left field options to bank some points and just see how I go. So James Sicily will be my captain.
I like it. You know what? I fell off my chair when you were reading about those stats, and I'd already forgotten about them already. that's how short-term my memory is. And now you've rejigged it, and I was thinking maybe I'll put the C on.
Really? I think it'd be a good idea. I think you should do it.
Yeah, maybe it should. All right, let's move on to...
if it doesn't come off.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be in the gun. You'll be in the ugly if it doesn't come off. All right, let's move on to our next segment. And it is, of course, looking at the group rankings and the SuperCoach Edge Cash League. And there is a particular reason why we love this segment, Liam. And hopefully that continues. We'll have a look.
Continue.
It should. Okay. Well, let's have a look first off at our SuperCoach Edge group rankings. And I can see you smiling, so you know what's coming up. And our high scorer for round 11 is Martin with his team at Derwent Destroyers with a score of 2,627 with a round rank of 413. The overall highest scorer is, of course, Tyler. 5 weeks in a row. You can probably guess what his team name is. And it is Cream Pies. I can't even say it. Cream Pies. Wow. 5 weeks in a row. You know, we've said it's like the sequel with the 2, trilogy with the 3, the quadrilogy when he had the 4. Now he's got the 5. It's almost becoming like a whole box set of Fast and the Furious like sequels. So it's like the Fast 5. We'll label this the Fast 5. So Derwent Destroyers and Cream Pies go hand in hand. Well done. So Cream Pies goes total score 26,383, and his overall rank is up to 18 overall, up from 30. Jeez. Absolutely love it. That's great. Five Cream Pies in a row.
If you want to enter the SuperCoach Edge group, which you can join any time.
Put the man on a leash.
The code is 142059. And let's quickly have a quick update on the SuperCoach Edge Ground League, the Tier 3 Patreon subscribers. And the winners for this round were David with his team DJ Trade a Lot, myself with Church of Parish, Matthew with his team Orion, Bruce with his team Shuin, and Jacqueline with her team Mid-Price Madness. Good
work. Well, that's probably couldn't come soon enough. It does bring us to the end of the show. But before we go, Liam, where can our listeners and viewers find us across our socials? Good luck with this. It's like the Don't Laugh challenge every time we go into that segment.
If you want to watch us, you can find us on YouTube and you You can just search SuperCoach Edge and don't forget to like.
Like and subscribe. On Twitter, you can find us at SuperCoach_Edge, or alternatively, our individual channels at DamoJ88 or Liam at LiamEvans_95. Liam, you can take over here.
On Facebook and Instagram, just search SuperCoach Edge and you will find us there.
Very good. Let's take a breath and let's batten down the hatches, strap ourselves in, cover our eyes, and hope for the best as we enter the unknown that is the bye period that is coming up. So best of luck to everyone. And yourself, Liam.
Good luck.
Yourself, even though you're not worried at all.
I feel like I'm like the storm chaser that's just like going after the storm. And I'm like, hit me, do it.
You hit me. You're like that dude from Twister.
Yeah.
just
so
chasing.
When the buys hit and you see me going up in the tornado, I'll wave.
It's like, I'm just imagining the scene from The Wizard of Oz. The house is going up, the grandma. Then you got the witch on the bike.
That's me.
Very good. Well, best of luck to everyone, including yourself, Liam. And we'll catch you next week to do it all again.
Thank you. Good luck, guys.